Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today I'm going to show you guys and girls how you can quit your job with $65,000 a year in dividends with this one particular YieldMax ETF. Let's get it. So the ETF that I'm talking about today is OARK or OARK. So what is OARK? Well, OARK is the YieldMax synthetic covered call version of AARK. AARK is the fund that was created and is managed and owned by Cathie Woods and her team. So we have the YieldMax version on the right and the AARK version on the left. We'll get into all this towards the end of the video. You guys are here for the dividends, so let's go ahead and get into that. So you got OARK's dividend history. It's paid out for 8 months now, since from January to August, and you have all these different numbers here. Now, the inception of the OARK fund was in November of 2022. With these option strategies, it probably takes a little while for them to collect the premiums to pay out to investors, which is why you see a sort of a gap between the inception date, the basically initial price action, and the first dividend payout. As you guys can see, the initial price action started in late November, and the first payout didn't come out until roughly January 10th. Something similar is probably going to happen with some of the current or the new YieldMax funds that they're getting into. So anyways, let's get into the numbers. So we have OARK here on this dividend growth calculator. It's an individual stock, monthly payments. We do want to reinvest the dividends because that's how you get the compound interest. 67 shares. I came up with this number. Basically, we're going to invest initially $1,000. Divide that by the share price, $14.94. That's how you come up with the 67 shares. Current price, we're going to go ahead and start out with $300 a month, or basically $3,600 a year. Dividend tax rate, you will pay taxes on this. It's not considered to be a qualified dividend as far as I know, which qualified dividends are favored, more favorable tax-wise. The initial annual dividend yield I put at 52%. Basically, how I got that number is I added up all these distribution amounts and then divided them by the amount of months. So the total number of all these payouts divided by 8, and that's how I came out to 52% as the average. And we're going to do 0 on the dividend increase because you guys can see the payments are all over the place. 1% on the share price appreciation, which I think is more than realistic. I'll get into that towards the end of the video, and we're just going to invest for 10 years. So let's go ahead and calculate this. As you guys can see, $3,600 a year. So what are we looking to make here? Well, we're looking to make about $5,000 a month or $65,000 a year. How much would it cost you initially if you wanted to make this? So you would need about 7,500 shares at the current price. We times that by 0.6838. That would give you roughly about $5,000 a month. So the amount of capital that you would need just to buy this amount of shares initially would be 7,500 shares times the current price of the stock, which is $112,000. So what we're looking for here is $112,000 of capital and $5,000 a month. So if you only have a little bit of money, $300 a month, let's say, it would take you roughly about 6.5 years to get to that capital amount, and it would take you about 7.5 years to get to the $65,000 a year or $5,000 a month. Now, dividend growth investors typically take decades to get to this point. So this is kind of a big deal. When you're seeing this, this is like the dividend growth process on steroids. So let's throw in another number here. Let's say instead of putting in 300 a month, you can put in 500 a month. Calculate those numbers, scroll back down here, and you can see that it would take only roughly about 5.5 years to reach 112K. It would take you about 6.5 years to get the 65,000 per year. Now, let's say you wanted to be really aggressive with this and put in $1,000 a month. You're putting in like, let's say 500 from your job, 500 from dividends or something else. Calculate again. And now you guys can see that it only takes you about 4.5 years to get to 112K. It takes you just a little over 5 years to get to 65K in income. And we're going to go ahead and be really ridiculous with this and say you want to put in 2,000 bucks a month. You're putting in like 1,000 from your job, 1,000 from dividends, or whatever it is you got going on. Calculate again. And now, as you guys can see, the process has really sped up a lot at this point. So you're able to get to that $112,000 mark in just 3.5 years. And you would be making, well, more than $5,000 a month after just 4 years. That's it, just 4 years. That's all it would take. And a lot of the legwork is done for you because of the compounding effect and reinvesting the dividends and putting active income in on top of that. Really does wonders here. So we're going to give one last example. We're going to say that you're being, I don't want to say all in, but much closer to all in. And you're doing 2,500 a month. You put in, let's say, 1,000 a month from your job or whatever your profession is, and 1,500 a month from dividends. Well, now at this point, you would get to 112,000 within roughly about 2.5 years, and you would be at $60,000 to $65,000 a year of passive income in roughly about 3.5 years. I suppose if you had like a roommate or a partner, or you lived in like a cheaper state or country, you could actually, if you knew your expenses at a time and how much you would have to pay to live on, you could actually start that process with these numbers as soon as 3 years. Now, one thing to keep in mind, the dividend rates, distribution rates are kind of all over the place. If we take a look at the highest amount here, you can see it's $1.09 in February. Well, what happened with AARK in February of 2023? As you guys can see, it pretty much leading up into that, it pushed up. And also the same thing here in the OARK funds. So we can assume, based on the price action, that when the price moves up, the dividend also moves up. So why did I pick the 1% per year in price appreciation? As I mentioned earlier in the video, well, we're going to take a look at that now. So AARK is based on future disruptive technologies like flying cars and drones and electric vehicles, space exploration, artificial intelligence, deep fake technology, to detect what's real from what's not real, bionics, robotics. I mean, the list goes on and on. Basically, anything you can think of that we already have, or we're about to have, or we'll have in the distant future. That's what this fund invests in. And I can tell you right now, based on what I've seen in some of these small cap growth stocks as a swing trader, the upside is absolutely massive. I don't know how big it could be, but you guys have seen what the internet's done to the world. Just imagine what AI and all this other stuff will do to the world. That's all I got to say about that. So this fund invests in that kind of stuff. So long term, I'm very bullish on OARK, very bullish on ARK. Now, in terms of price appreciation, if we take the low to the high here from the previous basically peak of the bull market, the last one that we had, you're talking 361%. So basically about 40 bucks to about 160 bucks. This thing did about a 4x. So what could OARK do? OARK, if we assume that the upside is capped on these YieldMax ETFs, which it does state on their website that it is. Give me a second on this. So if we wanted to do 2x on this fund, you'd be looking at roughly about a $28 per share price on OARK. A lot of people think it's not possible right now, but we're in a Fed tightening cycle, so a lot of things are getting hit pretty hard. When we go into a new bull cycle overall, I'm pretty confident that these share prices are going to go up. So I would say it's pretty fair to assume that if this does a 4x, this could do a 2x. So this is an option that you guys have to be able to quit your 9-to-5 job with this YieldMax ETF. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it was informative. Hope it helps you out in some way. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all later. Peace.